It's finally here. So I think the best way to approach this video is probably to break it up into, two parts. So we'll go over the first, we'll just start looking through the box as it is. And then I think I'll break it up by talking about the book, the second edition book that was released. And then we'll talk about the deck. So hopefully I'll remember to put chapter breaks in the video. So look for that if you want to jump to the relevant section you're looking for. I'm expecting this to be a little bit of a long video because I've been waiting for this one for a while. So let's open up the box. This is the Kickstarter for the Austin Osman Spare Tarot deck and reprinting of the original Lost Envoy book from Strange Attractor Press. Originally, it was released in 2016. Sold out fairly quickly. I was lucky enough to get a copy at the time, and it was the first time that I really became aware of Austin Osman Spare's tarot deck, and I wanted a copy ever since. So thankfully, 6 years later or whatever, Strange Attractor started down the process of making a reproduction, and they did a Kickstarter. It ran a little bit longer than I think everybody was expecting, but it's here. People are starting to get it. Happy to have my copy. I know a few other people that I know have gotten their copies, but I know there's still a lot of people waiting, so hopefully yours will show up soon too if you are. Okay, so let's open it up. I got the presentation box version. This was basically I got all the things. This was a no-brainer for me. Although I will say originally I was going to get the soft cover, but I ended up upgrading to the hardcover. So, alright, so let's open the box. This isn't exactly how it came. It came a lot more protected. They did a really great job shipping. The box itself had a lot of corner protection around, and then even within, for this book, they had a nice little styrofoam protection. So basically, this is the deck itself. We'll look at that in a little bit. It's a pretty spot-on reproduction of the deck. This is a sourcebook companion that was an add-on. Talk about this in a little bit. It also came with 4 postcards. These are really great. Obviously the Inquirer card is always an interesting card of this deck, and there's some really interesting information about this in the book in the second edition. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Came with a little pin, baggie, and the book itself. So let me get this out. So, these are all the items that I came with. I think at the price it was pretty good selection. I will say I feel that the book is better quality than the previous, although the quality on the previous one was great. I feel like the printing on this one is definitely better. I prefer this cover over the previous one, which I'll show in a minute. The deck itself comes with a little white book, as expected. double-walled box, and the deck itself. So, which they did a really good job at recreating the deck, with all the different back colors that are found in the original, and even like the little notes that are on the original as well. You'll see one of the key features of this deck is that it has all these things that go off the side of the cards. That come together and create new meanings. So if certain cards are paired up, it's going to have, it's going to affect the reading, which is really something that I'm very interested in exploring. I really, as you can see, this is still in order. I have not used the deck yet, really, so I wanted to kind of run through it in this video, and then I'm going to really get into it, and I'm hoping that at some point later I will get into a real in-depth, once I'm much more comfortable with the deck, a much more in-depth review. So the other add-on for the Kickstarter was the source book companion. They knew some of the stuff that was influencing Spare at the time when he created the deck in 1906, but there was some question as to what book exactly was his main influence for like the miners and stuff. They released a book with basically it's two books in one. You would flip it to see the other one. So the first book in it is the McGregor Mathers book, The Tarot, Its Occult Signification, Use in Fortune Telling and Method of Play, etc. by S.L. McGregor Mathers. But after the release of Lost Envoy in 2016, this person, John Choma, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, he made a very important discovery. He noticed that there was some shared language that was showing up in, on the cards themselves. So you'll see that there's a lot of handwriting notes on Spare's deck. One of the things that he noticed was that there was a lot of familiarity with a book that came out around the same time, and that was How to Tell Fortunes by the Cards, by Raposa. Now it's an interesting book. Originally, John Choma was thinking that it came out, and he had to copy from 1908, so that kind of didn't necessarily gel with the timeline, but it wasn't too far off. But John Allen, the author of the book, and he goes into this there's a new section within the second edition that is not obviously in the previous one, where he goes into some questions that were that came up about the deck after the 2016 release of the book, and then the coming out finding of this. So John Allen did some further research and did find more information. And what's interesting is that this book is basically a book that was released by I forgot the company's name off the top of my head now, but it was basically a fashion magazine. So it's like the equivalent of like if Vogue released a book on tarot, and this is what Spare was using to a lot of the meetings, it seems like, and it ended up that there was releases at the right time. It would have came out around 1906. It's very likely that Spare had seen it and used it because there's a lot of shared language. I haven't looked through this yet, really. There's a lot of information in it. There's some spreads and things, and they go into the meanings of all the different cards. You know, majors, minors, everything. So it's all different methods. It's going to be an interesting read. I'm kind of curious to check out both of these because these are both new to me. So, and there's afterwards, and I think is it just after? I think new, yeah, just afterwards that are from John Choma himself. So I haven't read these yet. I will definitely be checking this out soon. I guess let's talk about the book. Right here is the 2016 release of Lost Envoy, the tarot deck of Austin Osman Spare, edited by Jonathan Allen. Basically, it's kind of a collection of a bunch of different essays and writings around Spare and tarot and his deck itself, just his importance within the modern occultism, honestly. He was highly influential to a lot of movements, especially a lot of movements that are now bigger, and honestly, like, we would not have sigil magic in the way that we have it without Spare. So a lot of his ideas and everything are what is utilized by a lot of people. As you can see, the books themselves are pretty much identical, size-wise. They have similar spines. Personally, I much prefer the new edition. It's just the simplicity of it is wonderful. While I understand the reason for this cover, with all the different cards falling with the different colors, it never gelled well with me. What I do like, though, is that they basically, echoed it in the end papers of the second edition, which I think is kind of cool. It's a nice homage to the original. This was a much different inside. But, they're pretty much very similar. I do want to show one difference here. There's a dedication to Steffi Grant, which I don't believe existed in the first one. But, here is the... Just keep that open right there. I know I'm probably making a bunch of you cringe with that. For the most part, the chapters are pretty much all the same. The only thing that's kind of added and new is on page 323. It's instead of the bibliography beginning, it is the new add-in from Jonathan Allen, the editor. It's notes to the second edition, which is a pretty. It's like it's around like 15 pages or so, 16 pages. It's got a lot of information. I highly recommend checking that out. It's, especially if you've already read the original book previously. But because he talks about a lot of the new information and gets into a lot of the information about that compendium that I was talking about. The other thing that I do want to show here, which I think this is a good example, is the difference in the printing. I feel that while the original book is fine printing-wise, this just gives a lot more detail. The page is a more white page, where the original is a little off-white, but this is the new printing. This is the old original. It just gives a little bit more. It's a little bit crisper. It's a little bit more color, a little bit more saturation and contrast that shows better. And that's throughout, honestly, with all the images. It's definitely a nice upgrade. The paper feels really nice. It's a nice, really nice paper. Really nice book in general. It's got a ribbon bookmark in it, which is nice. This one did not have that. I personally feel like every hardback should come with a ribbon. Just makes life a lot easier. But yeah, this is a really interesting book. And the good thing is now that there's a softcover available, I believe that's going to be, I don't think that's limited in nature, so that should be available for a long time now. Which is great because while, obviously I love having the 2016 book in my own collection, it sucks for people that weren't able to get it. I mean, you might not have known about Spare in 2016, or maybe this is new to you. It's a great resource. The same for his biography, which I talked about in a previous video. But this book, if you're someone who's new to Spare, highly recommend reading this. It's great biography. It looks at Spare as both an artist and as an occultist, and more. Definitely recommend this. Phil Baker did a great job with this. This also was out of print for a while, but it's now back and available. I'll link below to it. But yeah, this also was a first edition release, and it's a gorgeous book. I highly recommend it. So in this, you're going to get a good overview as well within this book about Spare, but it doesn't go too deep, and there's just a lot of writings from some very well-known people like Alan Moore. Phil Baker has a piece in here. Jonathan Allen does this great intro. Mark Pilkington, who is one of the founders of Strange Attractor, it's got a great forward in here. So this whole beginning section is all about about Spare and tarot and about the cards. Basically, in 2013, I believe, I don't remember when the Spare bio came out. I want to say it was 2009 or something. I don't remember. 2011, sometime around then. But after that, John Allen found that people didn't realize were there. He found a copy of Spare's personal tarot deck in the Magic Circle Museum. It was basically the full set. I think it was just missing the Strength card is the card that was missing. So that was kind of recreated for this deck. They go into that a little bit in the notes of the second edition as well. So basically, yeah, I mean, you got a lot. It's got a lot of historical information. There's talk about Pixie a little bit. Some other tarot decks, some of the card information, but basically it's a really good resource. It goes into a number of different things about the deck, about the imagery. Here's a perfect example of how he has artwork that flows across different cards. Now, this stuff is one of the things that was causing the delay for Strange Attractor, as far as I understand, for the printing. Since it was facsimile deck, they wanted to get this so that it was, and thank God that they did, because they wanted to make sure that the deck would read the same as Spare read it at the time. And they painstakingly got all these things lined up. I think the deck is very close to an exact size replica. I think it's a 1.14% you know, it's a slightly bigger than the original. But yeah, no, so there's a lot of great things. Yeah, like this was another, like this photo in the original is, you do not get nearly as much detail. It's a lot darker of an image. This is much better in this new edition, and the gold, it just pops better. So basically, after you get through all the introductory stuff, then it gets into the actual deck itself, and starts talking about the cards. You get a nice image for each card. This is the strength card that I was missing. This was the only picture of the card, basically. So they recreated it based off of this and then colored it the same way as in the other majors. So it should be a fairly accurate representation. Yeah, and then it gets into all the different suits. It goes into it. One thing, you know, so the card backs themselves have their own section as well in the book, just because for some reason the cards are colored differently. Not sure why, really. They have a chart here that hopefully somebody at some point will make some sense of. Really, you know, all the majors are all purple, but then there's a bunch of other cards that are purple as well. Like all the Jackson Knights are purple, and then the Three of Spades has a purple back. You know, I'll get into this in the deck itself, and I'm assuming that they did each back is the back of the actual cards, because each back is different. They're all, you know, they all look different from the last. I don't see any reusing of imagery, you know. So they're all unique, which is really pretty cool. You know, you can, I'm not sure if it's coming through on the camera, but the staining and everything is different. You can see the coloration changes here are different across the cards. So it's really, they did a really amazing job. But no, it's wonderful. I can't say enough about it. But to continue on, there's one good thing that this does get into, you know, just gets into a little explanation, a little bit explainer of what the Inquirer card is. There's some good information in that note to the second edition that gets into, there's a letter that Phil Baker had referenced in the biography from Spare to Crowley, actually. He makes reference to the cards, and the letter seems to imply that there's some reference to the Inquirer card itself. So I highly recommend reading this. It's really interesting. That basically the Inquirer card is about, you know, basically your will influencing the deck, but unfortunately there's things that's just lost in time. But so each card also has a page where they have transcribed what's on each card. So when you look at the cards, I'll get it out to show. Alright, so talk about the 8. Here's the 8 and the 9. Yeah, so it says, you know, marriage or married 4 victory, 3 a wedding, 2 flirtation, with knave as Cupid, future husband or wife, with ace, offer of marriage. 8 hearts. So basically, it's just because some of it's a little bit hard to read on the cards itself. So it's really, I'm really thankful that they have these pages, because yeah, I mean, obviously, as you can see, there's some, you know, misspellings. Cupid is Cupid, you know, things like that. So it's quite nice that they have this for every card. And then there's also like notes on each card as well. So it's almost like like a guidebook as well. You know, I've said this previously, and then it gets into the bibliography, basically, of all the sources. And then one of the nice things, there's a index also for the book. So, yeah, if you're looking for something specific, you can find out where it's talked about within the book. So, again, love this book. I love the look of it. It is so nice. As much as I love that presentation box, this will definitely be living on my bookshelf. I'm not going to keep it in the box. I think it's a nice upgrade from the previous edition, you know, with the new information, the new look. I'm happy that I have both, and I will keep both in my collection. You know, let's talk about the deck itself. You know, I don't know if, I'm assuming there's people that just got the deck. So, you know, we'll talk about the little white book a little bit before I get into the deck itself. But yeah, no, it's a nice little. I think, again, if you know nothing about the deck or Spare, this will probably give you a nice little quick overview about it. But obviously, it's not going to get too in depth. It's a thin booklet. You know, it goes into the history of the deck, talks about the strength card, you know, everything, and then, you know, quick little bibliography. And then it gets into this card spreads. So, I mean, who's got the table area for this? This spread is insane. But I'm gonna have to try some of these spreads out. I have not. Like I said, I have not really read the deck yet. But so you get to a little white book. Doesn't really give you any meanings, but the good thing is a lot of the meanings are already on the cards themselves. So which you will see. So, yeah, I mean, this is the Inquirer card. This is the card I would talk about a little bit. There's a little bit, you know, goes into a little bit of potentially what it could be that's in the note about the second edition that I keep referencing in the video. So, highly recommend reading that. But yeah, I mean, it's obvious. It's got some obvious Olympus Levi artwork, you know, redrawn by Spare here. It's very different. It's a very different look from the rest of the deck. So there's a reason for it. Is it just like a significator? I don't know. I need to do a little bit more looking into it and understanding it more exactly what the thinking is there. But, you know, let's walk through the deck really quick. You know, it's got your standard Major Arcana. You know, you got the Fool, you got the Juggler. And you'll, obviously, it's 1906. This is going to be based more around Marseille than RWS, as RWS wasn't ready yet. Wasn't out. This was kind of happening at a similar time. So, this is the Juggler, the Magician, the High Priestess card, the Empress, the Emperor, Pope, Lovers, Chariot, Justice, Hermit, Wheel of Fortune, or as he's saying, the Luck card. Here's the reproduction of Strength. I mean, if you had no idea that they were missing this card, you would never know, that this was a new reproduction, a recreation, more likely. Hanged Man, Death. I love this Death card. It's such beautiful. I mean, I've always had a love for Spare's artwork, but this is just, it's so amazing being able to have this in my hands now. I mean, these were hand-drawn cards. One of these decks existed, and now, thanks to Strange Attractor, we have all these copies that people can now have and use. Such a great thing. It really, really, it's just so good for occultists and fans of Spare, and just tarot in general. It's I've said this previously, but like, this was the closest thing I've ever really had to a unicorn deck. Once I saw in the book in 2016, I was like, I need to have a copy of this deck, and thank God they did it. Star, Moon card. Love the way that this is. You have the dogs coming out of the water, they're like merdogs. It's amazing. Yeah. Such a great artwork. Sun. Judgment. And the world. Universe. And this is when you get into the suits. So it's the Ace of Hearts, 2 hearts, 3 hearts, 4, 5. I'm just going to run through these fairly quickly. I want to talk about the, matching some of the cards up, which we'll get to as soon as I get through this. Knave, Page, Knight, Queen, and King. Got the Ace of Diamonds, 2. You'll find there's a lot of these lines throughout the deck. And obviously, as you can see, they're meant to be read with, reversals as well. It's just, it seems to be an extremely well thought out deck for divinatory reasons. I mean, I'm not surprised by it with Spare, but it's just great. I would love to know. I wish he would have gotten further with it, or talked about it more, or even released it in some commercial, because we would have a little bit more information about the way he was using it. So Knave, Knight, Queen, King of Diamonds, Ace of Spades, clubs, 2 clubs, 3, you can see all the different back colors. His line work is just amazing. Ace of Spades. I mean, look at that. Just a hypnotic style that's going on there. There's just so much information written on each of these cards. It's just amazing. So let's just do random shuffle of the cards, and we'll just pull. Let's pull just 3 cards and see how these line up. I'm kind of curious. This will be my first pull of this, and I'm curious to see if the artwork that's going off the edges really does line up well, and how it just comes through on a standard reading. You know, is it like is it very clear or not? The card quality, by the way, is really nice. Really, it's, you know, pretty bouncy. Very solid feeling cards, though. They feel like they will hold up over time. One regret I have is that I should have just ordered a backup copy, but I may still get one. But let's see. I'm gonna really shuffle it up. Let's just see. So what's interesting here is that they didn't really line up at all in the ways that. I mean, you get a little bit, which is interesting, but I guess these cards aren't meant to play off each other. But I'm curious to see just. I mean, even like here, like these lines do very closely align, so I could see the bleed-in working to some extent, but you know, let me see if I can find like a card that lines up better, just because I'm curious to see. So let's just take that one. Actually, here, this night. I mean, I'm assuming they're not like exactly lined up, but I'm assuming that's the kind of thing you're looking at. have other cards that have just gonna run through these really quick and see what I can find. There's like these cards with like the rainbow running through them. Just found a couple. I'd love to know what his process was here, like, you know, how he was linking up certain cards, what the thinking was. Sorry, just bear with me 1 second, just run through, grabbing anything that looks like it has the rainbow. I mean, I also don't know if it's there you go. So it's interesting. I'm curious to understand this more. I need to spend some time with these cards to really get the understanding. But like even here, I mean, he talks about the seven of spade if it's paired up with this card. Or if it's paired up with in this one, like with the 6 of clubs. Which, yeah, I mean, he's definitely making these connections. So it's quite interesting. It's funny because I've always said, like, as much as I really wanted this deck, I was not really sure how this was going to read for me, honestly. Like, there was some thinking that this might not be even a deck that I would really utilize, but I knew I needed this deck as just a fan of Spare in general. I couldn't see not owning this. To me, this is an extremely important deck in the history of cartomancy in general. And then they mentioned this in the book, but Spare knew Crowley for a while before they had a falling out, but I wonder how different like something like the Thoth deck would have been if Spare and Crowley, because clearly there's that letter between where they're talking, and he's mentioning the cards. So, Crowley was aware, at least at the time of that letter, which I think was around 1908 or 1906 or something. So he knew Spare was working with cards. How different the Thoth deck would have been. I love the Thoth deck, but man, the Crowley Spare deck would have been something to behold. I mean, probably wouldn't end up killing each other, but the product would have been nice. I definitely need to spend time with this deck. It's going to be interesting. Need to see how more traditional reads would be. And I do want to spend some time trying some of the methods talked about in the book. And some of the different spreads that are found in that other source book as well. So it'll be interesting. I would say I don't know when Strange Attractor is going to make this available. If you haven't gotten in on the, if you weren't in on the Kickstarter, they obviously need to do all those fulfillments first and foremost. But I believe they will be making what they have left available. I don't know if they're going to do more printings of this. I would assume that the book won't be reprinted in hardcover, so I think it'll be just a soft cover that's going to be available. I'm assuming there's going to have some extras that they'll probably release, but I don't know. No, I don't know what they're planning. But yeah, they're a great company. I'm so glad that they're the ones that did this. I know it took longer than was originally planned, but ultimately, I'm ecstatic with what the final product. I think it's a great release. They just did a really good job, and you can tell that they really cared about putting out the cards. This was definitely labor of love. I mean, they clearly are huge fans of Spare, and he's, I think we're of a very similar age, the Strange Attractor guys and myself, so I'm sure and just based on the things that they release and the things that I've heard them say, their influences are very similar to mine. So Mark, Jamie, John Allen, John Choma, thank you so much for this release. All right, look forward to some more videos. I'm going to have a bunch of links down in the description where you can hopefully find a copy eventually, and I'll link to some of the other books that I talked about, like the bio, maybe some other Spare resources. But if you any of the Amazon links are affiliate links, so please help support this channel in any possible way, just so I can continue making some of these videos. I took a little bit of a hiatus for a bit, but got a few videos in the works right now that I'm excited about, and I'm hoping to take a little bit of a different direction on some videos in the future. So look forward to that, and I will see you soon. Thank you.